Good morning, day 135. I got my energy back because I got some rest and some sleep. I'm going to show you. So much has bloomed, which you might be able to tell by my voice. A little nasally today. Yes, we're in full bloom here. So we might only get glimpses of our sunrises from for a little while everything's in full bloom. And the steam, I love the change in temperatures overnight, cause this lovely steam. Okay, the camera's not cooperating with me today, but you can probably tell a little bit there. A little bit of like a mystical look there. Misty. So, good morning. Hey. Breathe. Sometimes I start, when I have a lot of energy, I just, it's like a fire hose. Gotta slow down, turn the nozzle down. Chapter 29, Book of Proverbs. We're getting near the end. We've got 2 more days of this wisdom book, and boy, is there a lot of wisdom in it. I also kind of noticed, like, page-wise, it's kind of right in the heart, in the middle of the book. I don't think that's an accident, do you? So 29, and the very first verse grabbed me from the get-go, and it was, those who do not accept criticism will find themselves suddenly destroyed without hope of healing. I'm paraphrasing. And in other versions, it said, those who refuse reproof or rebuking, stubborn. Stubborn, you don't listen. You just think you know better, prideful, like all the things. And you just steamroll ahead, like, I'll take my chances, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to do things my way. And you think you got it. And then all of a sudden, boom, suddenly. One of my favorite authors wrote in her book, slowly, slowly, and then suddenly, which is borrowed in a different version of Earnest Hemingway's line, gradually and then suddenly, which all of this, the book of Proverbs, all of these different quotes are talking about the law. It's a law of nature, the compound effect. There's a whole book out there that written by Darren Hardy about that, and lots of others. You learn it in, school. So none of this is new. People talk about it in all kinds of different ways. Today's my turn. And I have my title of today, like, wait a minute, how did I get here? It's slowly, slowly, gradually, and then suddenly you're like, what the heck? What happened here? And you had warning signs, and you ignored them. You're like, I think I know a better way. Okay, I got it, but I'm going to do this anyway. Right? The whole habit science that has emerged with all the books and all that we're learning about the human brain, confirm all of this and how it works. And we want to be on autopilot, and we just put ourselves on the wrong autopilot. And we're like, and just the pridefulness, they're like, no, there's no problem here. People are telling you, hey, you got a problem brewing. And you're looking around going, nah, you've got blinders on, or you're like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, whatever you're saying to yourself. And then boom, you're like, what? Luckily, if you do wake up in time and this can happen for good or for bad. So we want to, but this specifically is talking about the destructive things that we're ignoring or willfully being stubborn about. And I know I was a mixture of both of those. This even, when I look at the Enneagram, as a student of the Enneagram, this is exactly what the Enneagram talks about too. Like when you're living below the line or at the line of your average to below average health, this is exactly what we do. Exactly what we do. Hey, good morning. We're like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And then boom, like an avalanche. You're like, what happened? That's kind of, luckily I woke up before the boom happened in my life, and I was able to sort of turn that ship around. You know, ships and trains are good analogies too, because when you've got something that big, and a life is big, right? But we live it day by day. It's like, or a plane. I was just on a plane recently. Those are big things that you've got to slowly build momentum and speed. Boy, but once that sucker's going, it takes a lot to slow it down, to land it, to turn it around. That's what can happen to our lives if we're not careful. If we're stubborn and prideful, and we're like, oh yeah, I see. Everybody says you should exercise, eat that way, save your money, blah, blah, blah. Like all the wisdom that's out there that we know and we get stubborn about. We're the one exception, right? Well, I can do it this way and it'll work for me. Or it won't, or maybe we don't necessarily think it'll work, but we're like, it's not that bad. I'm just going to go over here and play with a little bit of fire. I won't get burned. Says everybody who's been burned, and then we go back and go, don't do that, it burns. and yet people will be like, oh yeah, it burned you, but I know what I'm doing. Have you ever found yourself saying something like that in life, and then you had to learn the hard way, and then you stop and you're like, whoa, how did I get here? Well, it was slowly, gradually, and then boom, you're here. But so this is a law and a principle of just the way things work. And you can put it to work for good in your life too. But you got to do exactly what they're talking about here in, we got some talkative geese here this morning. In the book of Proverbs, you've got to heed the criticism. And it's not just other people out there giving you feedback. It's your own body. It's your own life. You know, giving you evidence and giving you feedback and giving you criticism. Like, hey, I did that for years with my nightly couple of glasses of wine Chardonnay habit. It's not that bad. It's fine. It's great. Actually, I need this. This is so helpful. It helps me. It's self-care. And the next morning, I don't know or even 3 a.m. when you are like, I did it again. And then you wake up and it takes you 3 cups of coffee and, till lunchtime till you feel kind of back to yourself again. And then you're like, yeah, I really need to listen to my body and listen to the feedback I'm getting here and maybe not do this every day. And so you start making rules and, start telling yourself, oh, it'll be, but then 5 o'clock rolls around because you've set the habit in place and you're like, or whatever time it wasn't that early for me, but just throwing examples out there. But then you're like, oh, yeah, it's really not that bad. All in a day. Do you have amnesia like that about something else in your life? Exercise, food, sugar, saving money, like how your relationship with money. Maybe you let your kids just kind of run around and don't correct them enough. There's all kinds of things that you could slide in here. I'm just giving a personal example of mine. But that also led to consuming extra calories a day. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, a size 6, and then a size 8, and then a size 10. And then you're like, what the heck? But it was slowly. And it was like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. And then you go to put, the other big size on, and you're like, wait a minute. Now these are too tight. What's happening? It feels that way when you're in it. Because you're the one that's doing it day by day, ignoring the signs, telling yourself it's not that bad, and then suddenly it is too bad. And you're like, how? And it might even seem too big. And that's exactly what Proverbs is saying here. You're going to have a downfall but it doesn't have to be that way. This is what our brains will tell us, and it'll say. Now, for some people and some habits, of course, it does become too late. My father died at the age of 56 because he did this. My stepfather died in his 50s as well. Was it early 60s? Anyway, too young. Same thing, smoking cigarettes. And I'm sure you know people like that. It was like slowly, and then suddenly. And because we love each other too, when we normalize these things, we love our, and we're like, so it's nothing like you're a bad person. This is just the way our brains work. And when we see people doing things, we can normalize that because we're like, well, I love that person, and I know even though that choice there isn't so great, they make lots of other great choices, and they're good people, and we can really normalize things and not think of things as that bad, right? Right? I know I'm not alone here. I coach thousands of women that are proof otherwise. And also there's, things that are at play that we're not even aware of in the marketing world. Like a lot of these vices, these things that don't seem that bad, the fire that we're playing with is big business on the other side. And we got a lot of money behind telling us, do it. It's really not that bad. It's not that bad. Do it. Eat the sugar. Smoke the cigarettes. Drink the alcohol. Spend your money. You need the new bag. You need the brand names. You need the car. Like whatever it is. Get the divorce. It's fine. There's lots of other people out there. Look at all of us doing it. And then the people that are doing it, they of course don't want to be made to feel bad. So they're there trying to join you. Like and then anyway, so you can see the slippery slope that you can find yourself in. Beautiful, beautiful sunrise. And then it's an avalanche. And you're like in free fall, and you're like, what the heck? But it's really, unless it's too late and you really have no breath in your lungs, or you've got, a chronic or terminal disease that, as a result, there is hope. But even in those terminal states, there's things that you could do. Maybe not to save your own life at that point, but you can help others. You really can't, there's always something. This is the other beautiful promise and wisdom that's out there, is that you can always be a teacher for good, even if it's not the kind of teaching that you wanted to do. We're all people of influence and teachers, whether we want to be or not. Another law and principle at work. So what kind of teacher and influence do you want to be? And a few generations from now, even if you are the person that was stubborn, strong-willed, and decided to do things your own way and suffered maybe some terrible consequences of it, you can still, choose to find redemption in that and help others. So, yeah. And I can choose, even though my own father chose this path and suffered the fatal consequences. And it was very suddenly. It was gradually, suddenly. Embolism will take your life in a second. But it was the daily chronic turning to alcohol, to self-medicate. But he's still a teacher to me. I have woken up to this. And he may not be the teacher he wanted to be, but he's the teacher I needed. One of the teachers I needed. And, you can get healthier too. You can start enjoying your sunrises, not just waking up in the morning and, oh, it's another day, give me my coffee. But you can really wake up and love life. You can turn life into a freaking adventure. And it can happen also. It happens gradually, and then suddenly. That's how it happened for me. It was hard. I showed up every day. I did the things that were uncomfortable, that were hard, that seemed impossible, but day by day. And then one day I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm free. Like, I don't even want, like, you couldn't pay me to have a glass of Chardonnay now. Be like, get that crap away from me. No. Back away, Satan. And I'm still in the struggle bus with some other things. Still haven't lost all the weight I want. I was feeling my arm muscles. They're kind of mushy and jelly. So I've still got lots of opportunities. There's no point of arrival. There's no point of God getting it. That's the other thing it's telling us here. Like, don't be so prideful. Don't be prideful anywhere. I'm not going to be prideful about this right now. Because something could come along and, keep me from being able to do this. And if I hang my hat on, getting up for every sunrise, I'd be setting myself up for a downfall. So anyway, there you go. But for today, I am here and I'm loving it. And I'm trying to always hear feedback and criticism from myself, from my body, from other wiser mentors and coaches and people, from things I watch, like feeding myself with lots of good examples and reminding myself, you don't got this. You've always got something to learn in an area of opportunity to grow. Every day is new. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Rise and shine, people. Love ya.